Welcome back to the training webinar. I'm Dale Franks, and this week, well, actually, let's not talk about what we're going to do this week. Let's talk about what's happening in the next couple of weeks. Normally, Tuesday, the 11th, would be our monthly Spotlight webinar. This year, however, Veterans Day falls on Tuesday the 11th because Veterans Day is always on the 11th of November. So the Spotlight webinar for November has been rescheduled for the 18th of November, which will be Tuesday next, as Grandpa used to say. So the 11th Spotlight webinar is now going to be held on the 18th. Similarly, the 27th of this month, the training webinar that would normally fall on that Thursday will be canceled because it is the Thanksgiving holiday. So there will be no webinar on the 27th. So in fact, we are now getting into the holiday portion of the year. So there probably won't be a webinar for the training webinar in the latter half of December. We'll take a couple of weeks hiatus in December. Our last webinar, let's see, I have to look at a calendar now because I don't remember the dates. So let me go to December. So yes, the last training webinar of this year will be on the 11th of December. And on the 18th, there will be no webinar. And of course, the 25th of December, again, falls on Thursday this year. So there's not going to be a training webinar on Thursday. So our last webinar before our holiday hiatus will be the 11th of December, after which in January, the 1st of January is also on a Thursday. So obviously, New Year's Day, there will not be a training webinar there. And so our first webinar after the 11th of December will then fall on the 8th of January. So mark your calendars accordingly. There will be some interruption to our regular service as we enter the peak holiday period for the year. With all of that said now, we can move on to the topic of the day, which is going to be offline email completion. We rarely talk about offline email completion. It's built into the product. It's relatively easy to do. We just don't talk about it much. Part of the reason is that if you're not an on-premise customer, if you're a cloud customer, then your organization's members can generally access Process Director from anywhere in the world because it is on a cloud server. It's available publicly. It's outside your firewall. Now, if you're an on-premise customer, most of the time your Process Director installation is inside your firewall, so nobody outside the network can get a hold of it. However, even if you are a cloud customer, the ability to complete tasks via email without necessarily having to log into Process Director is a very convenient feature for your end users, assuming that you can provide them with the appropriate training. And we'll talk about why that might be important when we talk about your email template and how the emails will work when they are imported into the system. But we are going to cover and build from scratch today a system that will enable email completion offline. It's also convenient if you have people who have intermittent internet connectivity. Now, I noticed that this is something that is used fairly often by our customers who are in municipalities, where they have people who are sort of out and about in the community, like code inspectors / enforcement teams, building inspectors, things like that, where they may not have a lot of internet connectivity. And so therefore they have the ability just to reply by email. And as soon as they reach a place where they have adequate connectivity, that email will just be sent automatically by their phone's email client. And that way they don't have to worry, especially if they're in an area where they have limited bandwidth, of trying to actually directly get onto a form to do approvals or what have you. And of course, there's also the mobile device component as well, which helps if they have to submit forms. But in cases where you have employees or organizational members with limited functionality for getting onto Process Director, this email completion system is a very convenient thing to have running on your system. There are a couple of things that you're going to need to keep in mind. So your basic building blocks are pretty much the same ones that you're already used to. There's a little wrinkle here in what we're going to have to do to make this work, but generally we have to have a form, and that form will generally, it's not mandatory, but it's generally a good idea to have a signature comments field on these forms whenever you are completing by email. Obviously, you have to have a process timeline that will take these imported emails and associate them with the appropriate task ID in your system. Your email template is also an important component of this, because that is the email to which people are going to be replying. So there is a special system variable that you absolutely have to have in your email template, or the entire system fails to work. And then, of course, there's the email import custom task that you have to make this thing run the way that it is supposed to run. So with that, before we get into the form configuration, let us at least talk about the system, and let's do a quick demo of it. So I have a demo that I think some of you have probably seen before. I just have a form. The form doesn't do much. It has a form field. We don't really care about that. What we do care about in this form, and I'm going to go ahead and submit it. What we do care about is that the form has a signature comments control. Now, as I said, the signature comments control, which we can now see here on the form, where I could put in signature comments to, approve or deny this request. It's not mandatory, but it's always good to have a signature comments control just as a best practice to have approver comments. And certainly if an approver has the ability to deny a request, it's an extremely good idea to have a signature comments control and require the approver to provide a justification for why the request is being denied. So the approval comments control is quite important. It's also important in the context of offline email completion, because you want people to be able to provide comments, and there has to be a signature comments control so that we know where to place the comments if they return comments in the email. Now, the form is running. I am assigned to the task. I'm not going to do the task here because doing it here would largely obviate our need for email completion. So, and by the way, if you can in chat, tell me if you're hearing me fine. I think I am. I've just noticed some weird little wonkiness on the VU meter for sound that Zoom has. And so if I am, if you can hear me, then I guess you don't have to do anything. And if you can't hear me, you won't know how to respond. But in chat, just pop me a line. Let me know if there's any sort of sound issues. In any event, to get back to what we're doing here, I am not going to complete my task in the form. Instead, I'm going to complete it via email, and I have that email right here. Well, I'd prefer that it opened up there, but this is my email template. Now, this is a very, very bare bones email template. I don't have any form fields really, so I don't have any fields that I can show values to the end user. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reply to this email. So I'm going to hit reply, and There we go. And now I will type in two things. On the first line, I will type approve. And on the second line, I'll put in some comments, and then I'm going to send this email. And I can go ahead and close my approval email. Now, normally what would happen is that this email would be imported into your Process Director system. So normally what would happen is I would reply to that email. That email would go to some specified email inbox. And then the emails that are in that inbox are going to have to be transferred into Process Director. So normally what you would have to use is the BP email import utility. The BP email import utility is downloadable from the support site, and you can just sort of scroll down to BP Logix Utilities, and this right here contains BP Util, BP Email Import, and BP Import, and then you would just click on the download link to download that file. When you download that file, it will download as a zip archive, and you've got to unzip it, and the zip archive ultimately will include these three other zip archives. There's one for BP Email Import, one for BP Import, and one for BP Util. All of these will need to be, unzipped as well. And then in the BP Email Import folder, once you have unzipped it, you have the exe file here. It's called BP Email Import.exe. And when you open that, well, I don't want you to protect my PC in this case. I want to run anyway. Windows trying to protect me there. Did it pop open? The logs file opened, but I don't see BP Email Import. It must have opened up behind the screen. There it is. BP Email Import enables you to provide a user ID and password for a Process Director account that will have the permissions to import objects into Process Director. So you might want to just create a special built-in account that has those permissions. And then you need to put in your mail server information. So what your mail server address is, the type of server protocol, POP3 or IMAP. If it's Microsoft or Google, you're obviously going to have to put in your OAuth authentication tokens here to be able to bring that email in. And then you can import that email via BP Email Import. Now, the nice thing about BP Email Import is that once you've got it all set up, you can actually save the parameters. You can actually copy and paste them into a batch file, or you can just export them to a batch file directly. And what you would then do is, on a recurring basis, you would use the Windows scheduler, and you can do this on your local machine. One of the nice things about BP Email Import is that you can run it from anywhere. So you can run it from your local machine. You can run it from a server machine that is that has access to Process Director, and doesn't really matter where you run it, but you can set the Windows scheduler on that machine to basically make the BP Email Import call, and it will just go ahead and as a batch import whatever the emails are in the email inbox that is holding all of your response messages, and it will just import it into the Process Director system automatically. And we'll talk about where we're going to import it here in just a second. But this is how you would generally do it. I am not going to do it that way. I mean, I suppose I could if I had an email inbox that I had access to actually make this connection here and hook up to a mail server, and I had a special email inbox that I could reply to. I don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to manually import the email into the system. And So ignore the fact that we'll be manually placing the emails into Process Director. We'll bring them into the content list simply by using the UI. But this is how you would normally do it. You would normally have BP email import running, and it would just on a periodic basis go grab all the emails out of an email inbox and import them into the content list in Process Director. Like I said, I have no such content list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my reply email here, which I just sent. And now I have received it because the email is from me and it's going to me. So here's my email. I filled it out and I am going to save this email. I think I actually have to do it here. File, save as, and I am just going to save it straight into downloads. And this is email completion request number 644. So now I have saved that to my downloads folder, so I can go ahead and close that, no longer need it. Let's go back to Process Director. And I have this folder here called emails, which is set to automatically import the emails as soon as they arrive in this folder. As you can see, right now it is empty. And right now I have a running timeline for my email task completion. So we now need to complete this task via email. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to go to this emails folder. I'm going to go to create new document and file, and I'm just going to manually upload this email into this folder. So we'll go to downloads, and that's not the right downloads folder. Downloads, there we go. There's my email completion request number 644. So I'm just going to double click on that and I'm going to upload it into my folder. All right, that email is there. And if I go back to my process timeline and look at my active timelines, I no longer have one. I now have a completed timeline. And if we open this timeline instance and look at its properties, we can see here there's activity 1. That was the activity that was assigned to me. It was completed. There is my result. Approve. And there are the comments that I made. Both of these were extracted from the email, and using that email, I was able to approve the task without having to log into Process Director, without having to open the form. This all happened, well, I had to do it manually to import the email, but in theory, this would all happen automatically behind the scenes. I just send my email off and all of the magic happens. And by the way, when I send the email off, I'm going to receive an additional reply, which is this success message that I am going to get. It probably should be a little more informative than that in the real world to tell me that my process or my task has been, successfully completed and I can now get on with my life. But I'm going to get this email. Now, similarly, I can get a failure email, and we'll generate a failure email a little bit later. But that's how the system works. And it's pretty easy to set up. And that is what we are going to do today, is we're just going to set up this, this email approval system fairly quickly. So let's first talk about the form. If you are going to use email approval, then your form configuration doesn't really matter as much as your email template configuration does. Obviously, your form has to work properly and it has to do all of the things that you would expect a form to do. However, it's the email that is going to carry all of the data that you need. So I think we could probably argue quite rationally that the email template that you use has to be rather more informative than a normal email template. You are not just sending them a simple notification, hey, you have a task, click here to complete your task, because they may not be able to click there. They may not be able to access the system at that particular time due to bandwidth limitations or what have you. So that email template needs to have a lot more information. So you're probably going to have to use a lot of form field system variables to provide your user with the appropriate information. However, outside of that, the form fields that you have on the form are largely irrelevant. The one form field that you probably do need to have on the form, as I've said previously, is the signature comments field so that you can capture the comments from the user. It's not required though. You don't have to have a signature comments field. It's useful and we strongly recommend it, but you don't necessarily have to have one. But the form is going to have all of the information that you need to make the appropriate approval decision, and you're going to have to get that information to the end user via their email template. Now, in our case, we're really only interested in a demonstration of what it is that we're supposed to do. So we're going to make a really simple form. In fact, we're not going to do much with it at all. We're just going to create a form definition, and we'll just call it webinar email form. And of course, in a normal form, you would have many, many different form fields, and those form fields would need to be transferred over to your email template via form field system variable to provide your user with all of the requisite information that they need to make a decision when they get the email. In the interest of simplicity, rather than creating a big elaborate form and a big elaborate email template, I would rather concentrate on the central portions of what it is that we're doing here. So the only thing that I'm really going to add here is a signature comments control. And I can't for the life of me remember where signature comments is. Signature comments. There it is. It's in input controls. So we'll drop a signature comments control here. We'll put it in the test. Please enter your approval comments. And that will be our text that will display for our signature comments control. And I'm going to put one more form field on here. I am going to throw in a button area so that we have a button area on our form. And of course, in a normal form, I'd have all the other form fields, probably a routing slip and all of the other complexities of a form. We're going to distill this down to just the basics of what we need, and we're just going to build a single form here, and we'll come back and hook this up to our process timeline in a minute. So the form is really the simplest part. There's no change that is required in your configuration of the form. There is nothing in the form configuration that is any different than what you would normally do. So that makes our life a little bit simpler there. Where there are some changes is whenever we move into the process timeline setup. There are two things now that we have to consider whenever we are setting up the process timeline and we're creating the activity to which the user can complete, or for which the user can provide completion via email. On the results tab, we're going to have some special configuration there because we are going to need to provide a list of appropriate responses that a user can provide in the email that will count as either an approval or a disapproval. So we're going to have to think about what a user might type back in the email. A little more complex than you might think, because let's say that you decide the result is approve. That's fine, perfectly normal result. But what happens if they type, instead of APPROV, they type APROV or APVROV, or some other similar misspelling? So you got to think about it. Now we're not having people click a button. Now people are having to type something. And if they're typing something, what if they get it wrong? So you may want to have this. Well, I say you may want to, you really do want to have this optional set of text strings that a user might enter that you will count as an approval. And the second thing, the thing that makes the entire task work properly via email completion is on the Advanced Option tab, the Allow Task to be Completed from Email property. So these are the two key bits in completion by email that you have to think about whenever you're creating your process timeline. So having said that, and I think we can probably get rid of that screen right now and just keep this up. So now we have our form. Let's talk about our process timeline, and let's be sure that we configure that correctly. So we'll go ahead, we'll create a new process timeline, and we'll call it the email completion timeline. And we will remove that extra K. See, I can't even type a simple word whenever I'm doing the webinar. And so think about how hard it is for your users to be able to type whenever they're trying to respond to an email for approval or disapproval. So we're going to create an activity, and we're only going to create one activity for this process timeline. And that'll be our user activity that we'll use to complete via email. Now, before we do that, we might as well go back and just link our form and process timeline properly. So and I called it webinar email form instead of webinar email form. Okay, great. I'll have to change the name of that here in a second. But I want to make that connection. We're also going to need a default email template. Haven't created it yet, so I'm going to have to come back and create that here in a little bit. So let's take a look at our user activity. Now it's just going to be a standard user activity. There's nothing special that happens here. There's nothing special that happens on participant. But on the results tab, we do need to add our result. So we're going to add two results. We're going to just have approve and deny. So I'm going to go to my first result name. I'm going to call it approve. And I'm going to go to the options tab, and I'm going to have to do a couple of different things. As always, we're going to set the button order on form to 1 because at BP Logix, our results are always arrayed on the form from most positive to least positive. Well, let's go ahead and do our icons and stuff. So we'll have this button here, and there's my approval. So let's go with our checkbox. So we'll have a white checkbox. Can't see it here, but it's there. We'll set our button background color to a nice dark green, and we'll set the text color to white. And then we come down to optional strings for email complete. I did not want to do what I just did. Approve, go back to options. Sorry, I hit the wrong thing on my keyboard and sent everything all higgledy-piggledy. So let's pick our checkbox again. And once again, give ourselves a nice deep green background color and a white forecolor so that we get appropriate color contrast. And now we go to this optional list of strings for email complete. Why this is showing me the last pass drop downs, I don't know. But this is where we now need to figure out what the user needs to tell us to ensure that this task gets approved. So obviously, if they say approve, I want them to approve the task. Now, this is a comma-separated list of strings, so for each item that might be an acceptable version of approve, I can just... So there's approve, 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 and whatever other misspellings I think might be common for approve, but I can also add other things in as well. Yep. Yeah. Uh, I don't need those spaces. They're probably better for readability, but I don't really need them. Okay, sure. Oh, yes. How about yes? So now I've got this entire list of strings, and if my user replies with any of these terms, that will count as an approved result for this particular activity. And I would do the same thing for any additional results that I had. And by the way, I'm just going to hit close and I'm going to hit update just to save what I've done so far so that I don't lose it again. And so I have my approve activity result. Now let's give ourselves a deny activity result. And I'll go back to the button order on the form. I'll set that to 2. And for this one, we'll go ahead and give it the appropriate icon in white for the X, and I will set my button background color to a nice deep red color, the foreground again to white for great color contrast between foreground and background. And now I'm back to this optional list of strings for email complete. So this is deny, so obviously we want deny here. And I mean, I suppose it's possible to misspell deny, but I don't know what any possible misspellings are. So not entirely sure how I would do that. So we'll just say no. Nope. I'm not sure why anyone would ever type but I will use that as a string, and I could probably add many more strings here. But I think you get the picture. We do recommend anytime that you have signature comments on a form, and this form has signature comments, we do recommend that you require signature comments if a request is going to be denied, as I mentioned earlier. So I am going to set that here. Depending on the amount of time we have at the end here, we will play around with some denials and we'll see what happens when we do different scenarios. But we are going to require those signature comments. And then later on, like I said, if we get a chance, I'll try to deny this and not add comments, and we'll see what happens. But for my process timeline, these two things are super important. So important, in fact, that I am going to be sure that I save it and I hit update. Now, the fact that I have placed these approval and denial strings down here, while that is important, that is not what determines whether email completion will actually work. What determines that is on the Advanced Options tab. Now, we don't go to the Advanced Options tab much, and when we do, it's generally to determine whether we want to assign users to a task if we have multiple users, whether we want to assign them in parallel or whether we want to assign them in series. And since parallel assignment is the default in Process Director, we generally only come here whenever we are going to assign tasks in series. So we don't look at this tab very often, but we do need to look at this tab. In this particular case, I keep clicking and turning that on because what we want is this checkbox right here, allow task to be completed from email. This is the property that on a per activity basis determines whether email completion will work or not. It's a bit tedious, especially if you have 10 different user activities in your process, all of which need to be completed by email. It is a little inconvenient to have to go to the Advanced Options tab and remember it for every single timeline activity to turn on that flag so that that task can be completed by email. The reason that we've done it that way is for flexibility. Because one of the most common requirements for allowing tasks to be completed by email is to only is to set it up for C-suite executives to do approvals by email without requiring them to open up Process Director. So it's generally one of those things where more senior level executives will get this allow task to be completed by email, whereas your normal lower level approvers, you might actually want them to open the form and review the form and approve it after a careful review of the form. Whereas for the C-suite executive, these approvals might be rather more pro forma and they might not require as much information. So in that case, it's more convenient for them to provide this task completion by email. So having this set at the activity level, rather than setting a setting that would say, allow all tasks to be completed by email, that would certainly be convenient, but it's not the usual use case. The usual use case when you want to allow tasks to be completed by email is for more senior level executives. If you want to allow anybody to complete by email, that's perfectly fine. There's nobody has any heartburn with that, but you are going to have to remember that it has to be applied at every single activity. So that does get a little bit tedious if you have a very long process timeline. In our case, we don't. We're kind of happy with this. We're only going to need this one activity. This is the one activity that's going to be assigned to me for approval, just as we saw before. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, and for the time being, close and save my process timeline. Now that I have created the timeline, I am going to go back to the webinar email form, and I am going to change its name to webinar email form. And I'm also going to go to the options here, and I'm going to do the appropriate linkages to the email completion timeline. Although really the only one I really need to do is the automatically start this process one. But for completion's sake and best practices sake, I will set both of those associations, and then I will go ahead and close my timeline there. The next piece that I need is my my email template to get that email template set up properly for what I need. Now, the email template only requires one thing, and that one thing is a system variable for the email task ID. Normally, when you send out an email template, you'll use, the link to the form that you'll use will be the email_URL system variable. So you'll just send the email URL system variable in a hot link control so that they click on it and it opens up the form, and it opens up the form in task context, where just a link to the form itself would just open the form, but it wouldn't be in task context. Well, we have to do something similar here. And so instead of the email URL, what we need to, and we could still send them the email URL, this doesn't preclude that. But if we're going to allow them to complete it via email, we must include the email task ID. What this provides is a custom task, is the task ID for the ID they have been assigned. And therefore, whenever they complete the email and it gets imported into the system, it's just an email that says approve. Well, approve what? I have to have that task ID in the email in order to know what task it is I am trying to approve via email. And by the way, this email task ID, one of the things that generates it is the checkbox we just looked at to allow forms to be completed by email. Turning that on enables the creation of the email task ID, which is a special task ID. It's a GUID that gets sent to the end user. In fact, we can take a look at my email template that I originally sent to myself. And there you go. This is the email task ID. So at runtime, it's going to generate this GUID and it's going to send it back to the user. This must exist inside your email template. So whenever we create the email template, we'll need to ensure that we have that email task ID. And in fact, since we're going to do that here in just a second, I'm going to go ahead and copy that system variable right off the screen here so we can send it out. As the big green box says, email task ID is non-negotiable. If it does not exist on your email template, completion via email is simply not going to work. It is a unique identifier that the system has to have to determine what task is either going to be approved or denied by the email reply that you receive. Generally, it's best to stick it somewhere down at the bottom and not to put it in the main message content. And that's what we're going to do whenever we create our email template, which is in fact what we're going to do right now. One important thing to remember, and one final parting shot on this. Remember, we don't care if they open the form or not. We want them to complete via email. That means our email template is probably going to have to contain a lot more information. They're going to need to know who the requester is and the nature of their request and any narrative about why they need the request. So unlike a normal email template, which can just be simple enough to say, hey, you've got a task assigned here, click here to open the form and complete your task, and ta-da, we're done. We can't really do that if we're going to do completion by email. It's going to require that we provide the email recipient with all of the information that they need to make a decision via email. So it does mean that in most cases, our email template is going to have to be a lot more complex because we're going to have to provide them a lot more information than we would for a normal user who we're expecting just to open up the form and to make their decision on the form. So let's take care of our email template here. So once again, we'll go create new, and we'll create a new form definition, and we will call this the email template, which I guess is the simplest name that we can give it. And to ensure that it is an email template, we will open up options. We will check the email template box, and we'll hit OK so that the system knows that we are, in fact, creating an email template. So as I said, we need to do a couple of things. We need to give them a lot of form fields to make or give them the appropriate form fields to make the decision. Now, in our particular case, we don't have any of those form fields. So we are, in addition to that, going to need to give them instructions. So there won't be any form fields on here, but we do need to provide the appropriate instructions. Copy, copy, copy. Paste. Okay. Why am I not copying here? Let's try it one more time. Copy. It says copy. Okay. That's not working. Fine. Let's reopen the email. Let's copy this again. And let's see if we can paste it. All right. I have no idea why it is not allowing me to copy and paste across. So, what does this say? Let me move it over here so I can read it. Okay. To complete your task, reply to this email. Um, and so we have that. Oh, we might as well tell them, Okay, so we've given them some clear and concise instructions of what it is that they need to do. This should probably go at the very top, and it should probably be, highlighted in some way so that they know that that's the important thing that they need to do. There's also probably going to have to be somewhat of a training burden so that someone, actually tells them and walks them through the process of approval or disapproval. But those are the two things that you need on the form. You got to give them instructions on what it is they're supposed to do, and you got to give them all the appropriate information from the original form to make a decision. Our form doesn't have any information because we are focusing like a laser on just the completion part. So this is going to have to be good enough for us right now. However, I do have to have that system variable. And by the way, I went and copied all of that stuff, which means that copying the email task ID isn't going to work. So I got to put that email task ID in the, what in the world is going on? I hate applications that want to help me by just turning themselves on and updating. Um, so let me quit that. We use a little thing called Fellow here, which take notes on our meetings and stuff, and it's acting up for some reason. Anyway, I need that email task ID in here somewhere. It's best to put it in a footer where somebody is less likely to make changes to it. Now, I went a little overboard here and I gave this big danger, danger, danger thing, and you cannot edit this ever. Don't touch it. It might be wise to have perhaps a slightly more tactful message that says this is required, but I do need to put that on my email somewhere. It might be easy enough to say, do not write below this line. And that is really not the format I want it to be. And let's try that again. Do not write below this line. And I'll boldface it just for clarity. And then on the next line, I will go ahead, go to other controls, go to system variable control, drop in my email task ID system variable, and we'll just call it email task ID. And this will just auto generate when the email is sent. This is really all that I need. So this solves my problem of how the system is going to know what it is that I'm approving or denying. So I'm pretty happy with this email template. So we're just going to go ahead, save and close that form. And once it closes, we'll go ahead and close the email template. Then we'll need to open up our process timeline and we'll need to apply that email template to our process timeline. So now that it has been saved, we can go back to our email completion timeline, go back to our options, and we'll just set our default timeline as our email template timeline. And we'll update our process timeline. And so far, we are good to go. This still says when in our email form. That's not what it should say. It should say webinar email form. I may have found a little bug here where it doesn't update the name, even though I updated the name on the form. That's interesting. It's not a huge deal, but it's slightly irksome. So now my process is done. Of course, it still doesn't work because I'm missing the major piece that enables all of this email processing to happen. And that's the email actions custom task. That's going to have to be set up as a separate process timeline to bring in the emails and to run it. Now, I also need some place for the emails to be stored. So I am going to need an additional folder here. So I'm going to go ahead and create that right now. We're going to have to come to the folder and do some configuration in a moment. But we'll just call this folder emails. And now we've created it. This is where our emails have to end up when they get imported into the system. But now that we have that, we can go back into our main folder and we can create the process timeline that is going to tie all of this together. So we need a new process timeline, and we'll call this the email import timeline. Now, this email import timeline doesn't need to be heavily configured at all. It doesn't need a bunch of activities. It only needs one activity, and that activity has to be a custom task activity type. And the custom task we need to use is the email actions custom task. So we're going to go back to the email actions custom task, and I think it's in content actions, and there it is, email import. It's the email import custom task. We're importing the email, and we'll add that custom task. We have an option for the container form. It's not necessarily required for this particular custom task, but we are going to go ahead and set it to our webinar email form as the container form. And then we're going to click configure on our custom task and open it up for configuration. And give it a second. There we go. Now we've got our form. Wait a second. Hold on. I may have pulled the wrong custom task. Trying to do all this by memory, and it is email action. Okay. Let's go back to my activity. Let's get rid of that. Oh, we'll call this activity import emails. And content actions. I don't remember where it is. Email action. It's in process. There we go. Email action custom task. We'll add that. And once we've set it to webinar email form, great. We'll open it up. This is the interface I was expecting to see a moment ago. Hello. So I want you to notice that in the email template itself, and I'll bring it up here. We wrote those instructions. Now here's the instructions in my original email template, which I think are not really descriptive enough because it might not be approval text on the first line. But whatever it is, whether it's approve or deny, it's telling you specifically, there's something I want you to put on the first line, which is your approval/denial text, whatever it may be. And then I want you to add any comments on the second line. I'm telling them that specifically because of how we're going to try to get data from the email template or the email that we receive, because we're going to have to parse that email. And we're going to have to figure out where the approval/denial string is. And then we're going to have to figure out where the contents of the comments are, because we actually have two fields that we are going to basically fill out on the form. Well, not the form, on the activity. We need to have the activity result, and we need to have any required or any comments, any approval comments or signature comments that the user makes. So I'm giving them explicit instructions, approval text on the first line, comments on the second line. Now, the reason that I have to give such specific instructions about their email is because of how I'm going to get the results. I've got a couple of different ways to get the result. Line is the simplest because what line does is it says, look, we'll get the results from line 1 and we'll get the comments from line 2. Straightforward, simple. Just say, hey, your first line is going to be your approval or your approval, and your second line is going to be your comments. There are some other methods. We're not going to use them because they get a little weird and they require more specific instructions be given to your users. And the more specific your instructions get, the better luck you're going to need in having your users actually do the things that they need to do. Because I can look for a keyword in the email. So that might require that the user type in a specific string like result : the more you make people type, the harder it's going to be to ensure that they're going to type the right thing. Well, you can never ensure it, but you're now creating more space for error. So sure, I could have a keyword that said, result : so look for that. And if you see result : that lets you know that we're beginning the results string, and whatever comes after that colon, that's our result. Okay, well, now I've got to type in result : similarly, if I go with value, now there has to be a specific value on the form or on so now I'm looking for, let's say, approve as the value. Maybe, but what if they type in disapprove? Well, it's going to find the result approve. This gets real fuzzy about what it is that we're looking for, and it places even more reliance on the end user. Now, look, if you're doing something programmatically, maybe keyword or value are going to work for you, but when you're dealing with humans, I think the simplest possible way of setting this up is to just say approve or deny on line 1, and then hit enter, and then use line 2 for whatever comments that you want to add in addition to the results. That's just going to make your life a lot easier by using line 1 and line 2. So that's why I used those specific instructions in the email, because I think this is the most reliable method for getting that email filled out properly by your end user. If you are going to use keyword, now there's a lot of other things you can do with email action. Email action is actually quite a complex custom task. I can actually take information out of an email, like one of the things about the keyword value, right, is I could have a list of, I could like put a table in a email and have a list of keywords on the side, first name, last name, city, state, phone, and I could type in the values after city, state, phone, whatever, and I can map them to form fields in Process Director. Now that's pretty cool, and it's a neat thing to be able to do, but it is going a little bit beyond our remit for today, which is just to make approvals work. So I don't need those extra mappings, but you should know that I could have those extra mappings. If I had a comma separated list of values, I could add them to an array. It's a pretty cool custom task. We don't need to go through all of that for this. All we really care about are the results and comments. Now, up at the top, this is an interesting little setting, and I'm not going to give you a recommendation on whether you should set it or not. I'm not going to set it here in this particular instance, but if the email is sent by and has, is got a from address of anybody other than the person to whom the notification was sent, if you check this checkbox, then we can just simply reject their email. So if you send an email to, dale.franks@bplogix.com, and I open it up in that account and I send it back from that account, everything will be fine. Now, if I take that email and decide, well, I can't deal with it now. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll forward it to my home email address and I'll reply whenever I get home and I have some time later on tonight. Okay, fine, you can do that. But now I am replying from, dfranks@gmail.com. That's not my real Gmail address, by the way. I just made it up. So spam away. But if I send it from that email address and this checkbox is checked, that email is going to be rejected. It's going to say, nope, this is not the right email. I cannot approve this task because it did not come from where I thought it came from. So something to keep in mind. It's just a little extra security matter. So what this custom task is now going to do is it's going to take an email message. It's going to parse it, line 1 for the results, line 2 for the comments. Now, what do I want to do with that email? Well, what I probably want to do is to attach the email to the process. Because if I'm going to approve by email rather than by button click, it might be a good idea for auditing purposes to have a copy of that email stick around with the process so that I can go in later and ensure that, hey, they actually did want me to do this. Here's the email where they said to do this. In fact, if we, I'm going to open up a new window here. And I'm going to open up training again. And we'll go to our content list. What I want to do is go up here to our email import. We'll go into our sample and we'll look at our email task completion timeline. Well, I need my comment list back. Import sample, we'll go to our email task completion. We'll look at our completed timeline. We'll open this back up and let's pop open timeline items. And in timeline items, in addition to the form, which is always attached to the process, of course, there's my email message. So it has also been attached to the process. So I might have multiple emails if this is going out to multiple users, and I'm going to want to hold all of those emails in the system so that I have a record of what you said in your email that you wanted me to do. And not just so that I can have a record. I personally, don't care. But if you live and work in a regulated industry, finance, life sciences, whatever, that might become very important for auditing purposes. So for our purposes today, we are going to attach the email to the process. Now, if we have the email, what happens if the email contains attachments? I mean, it very well could. And if it does, we're probably going to want those attachments as well. None of mine have any attachments. Nevertheless, I am going to attach email attachments to the process. Now, you get a group name. We always recommend that you use a group name. I'm just going to call it emails, and I'd probably use emails here too, but if I wanted to have a separate group, I might call it attachments or whatever. It allows me to sort of discriminate between my attachments. Plus, if I have these attachments as, emails, or if I decide to double them up as emails and attachments, well, now I can have multiple show attach controls on my form. So not only can I have my form with all of the original request data, not only can I complete the form via email, but because I'm attaching the emails and the attachments to the process, I could, with a show attach control on my container form, my webinar email form, I could show all of the emails in one. And if I had additional attachments, I could have a second show attach control, and I could show those attachments separately in a separate show attach control. If I have two different group names and I wanted to, split them apart, attachments in one and emails in another, I'd need to have two different group names. But if I use the same group names, then I could have all of my emails and attachments all in a single show attach control. But this not only attaches it to the process and gives me the auditing from the administrative side, but because I now have these attachments, I can display them on the form in attachment controls, which, if we have the time, and it looks like we do, we might go in and make some changes to our form so that we can actually see those forms or see those emails and see those attachments. The final two things I need to do is to provide the message that I want the user to see if their email task completion was processed successfully, and want to see if it failed. So we'll put success task. Let's put it, let's rename it task completion success. Okay, so that's my subject. Yay, we did it. That's what the exclamation point means. Yay, you did it. And then I can provide them with a message that says, your task was completed successfully. You did so good. And give them it's all caps. Ark. All right, let's fix that, because I like my sarcastic success message. So let me paste that into Word, and let me drop this back into sentence case. All right, fine. Let me drop everything into lowercase. And now we'll go back into sentence case. Thank you. And I dropped my form, but that's fine. There we go. Your task was completed successfully. You did so good. So now I can feel good that I successfully completed the task. And task failed. Task. Oh, I still have caps lock on. Failed task completion. You did not complete the task via email. Please try again. I was going to give a rather vicious and sarcastic message about their abject failure, but we'll just say, please try again. And I'll try to restrain my humor for the moment. But now I should have everything I need on the email action custom task to be able to run this process, kick off this task, use the form as the container form, although it doesn't really matter in this case because I'm not doing any mapping like we talked about earlier. So I just do it because the best practice is to set the container form, although we're not really going to refer to the form. But now I've got everything set up the way that it should be, at least as far as I know, it's the way that it should be. So I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to close Word there. And now my task is configured. So I can go ahead and close and update my process timeline. And we'll go ahead and close that. So now I have this email import timeline. I need to run that anytime I bring in any emails. So I've got to go back to my folder. As I mentioned earlier, I need some folder changes here. And let me be sure that I have not forgotten anything. Email processing, configure email actions. We don't have any data sources, but we do need to map the resultant signature comments. We've done that. And the complete user responses, that's fine. We're good to go there. And we're doing our data extraction, which I've just covered. So we went through all of that already. So now we're on the email folder. So in Process Director, I can have smart actions occur on folders. And so we created this folder. It's called emails. That's the folder where we are going to import all of our incoming workflow emails from some specified email inbox that exists out on our email server. And we are now going to have to automatically process everything that comes into the system. So there is a property in our folder called automatically start this process when objects are created in this folder. So we're going to need to take that. We are going to need to set that to our email processing timeline that we just created, because that means that every time a new email gets placed in that folder, and it doesn't matter how it gets there, it can be placed there because I imported it via BP email import, or it can be placed there, as we just saw earlier, manually by me just placing the message file in there. Doesn't matter how it gets there. The important thing is that it does get there and that we automatically trigger our workflow or our process to take that email and parse it for our purpose of approving the process. So we're going to go back down into our webinar folder. Wait, I have two of these windows open. Let's keep them separate. I'm already in the webinar folder. I'm in the emails subfolder. We need to go to its properties and then automatically start this process when objects are created in this folder. We are going to go ahead and say, okay, well, I need to run my email import timeline anytime anything is placed in this folder. And I can update my folder. Now my folder properties are all set. So I should now, having done all of that, now I should be good to go. Now I can start testing my form to see if it works. And in order to do that, I am going to need to delete all of these old emails. So let me get rid of them. I'm just trying to be, I'm trying not to confuse myself when new emails come in. I usually don't have my email open in a webinar. And so it's never a problem, but I just need to be sure that I mark all of the existing emails as read so that it's instantly obvious to me which are my new emails. So let's test it. Let's see if this thing works. I think I've configured everything correctly. I know I did up here, so I'm fairly certain that I've been able to reconfigure it. So we'll go to our webinar email form and we'll run it. Okay, there's nothing for us to fill out. I'm just going to hit submit. and it will take whatever time it takes to process. Please process. And let's get going. Oh, finally, now I'm in the task. So I'm in my approval or denial. Obviously, I don't want to do it here. I want to just go ahead and close my form. And I now have a timeline task assignment, which has got all the stuff I need. There's my TLID. That's super important. Got to have that or nothing works. There's my instructions. Great. So I'm just going to hit reply. Oh, this is coming from bpltest@bplogix.com. Okay. I got to make a little change here. This is not going to work. So let me go. So I am, in fact, going to, I am going to complete my task right here on the form. We're going to approve that. We're going to have to try this again. Here's why we're going to have to try it again, because I'm going to be manually importing it. So unfortunately, it's important that I get this right. So for this email template, where's the email template? I did not put in a email data control. Should have, didn't. So we'll go to other controls. We'll go with email data control. There it is, way down there. And we'll call this task assignment or task assign. Let's make it customize. Please complete this task via email. There we go. That's custom enough. And my from email needs to be, which version do I have here? Is this the official version or the short internal version? Oh, it's still at, okay, dale.franks@bplogix.com. Okay. So we will set our from email to be dale.franks@bplogix.com. This is important because when I reply, I need to reply to myself so that the email goes back to me so that I can then save the email to manually import it into the folder. So it's going to go from me to me, and then I can reply to me so that I have the email rather than sending it to an email inbox that I don't have access to. So we will have to save and close this again, and then we'll have to rerun our process. But now when we go to the webinar email form and we run it, we'll submit it. And there we go. That's great. Now I'm back to right where I was. Let me be sure I delete these emails. There we go. Now my new email is coming in. I have a different TLID, obviously. Now when I hit reply, yes, it will now go back to me. And let's take a look at what we've done here. I don't need this email right now. This is my reply. So let's go back to our process timeline. Let's go back to our activity. Let's go look at our results and let's see. Let's start off with approve. Let's be sure that that works. And let's see what I can say. I have approve, approve, approve. Yep, yeah, okay, sure, yes. So all of those are acceptable responses. So we're going to try something. We're going to type approved. Now, approved is not in this list of strings. So let's see what happens when we type approved. And I am going to put in some comments. So here are comments. And we're going to send the email to me. And so it should arrive to me in fairly short order. We're just waiting for the email. Please email come to me. There it is right there. So there is my email approved. Here are comments. I have now received it. So I am now the email server, I guess. And I'm just going to go file, save as, and please complete this task via email message. You know what I should have done? I should have set up a sequence number so that I knew which message it was. I didn't do that. I'm a bad man. So I'll have to keep track of what my email messages are as I send multiple ones, but fine. We're going to go ahead and save this. Cool. We'll now go back to my emails folder. Oh, I don't want to save this. I don't want to make any changes. So I do want to go to my emails folder. So we'll go ahead and leave there. Now I'm in the emails folder. I'm going to go to create new document and file, and we're going to browse, and we're going to pull that please complete this task via email message, and we're going to upload it. All right, I have now placed my email inside the folder. So let's go to email import TL, and let's look at active timelines, and there's nothing there. But if we look at completed timelines, I do have a completed timeline there. And if I look at my email, I completed my task successfully. Your task was completed successfully. You did so good. Great. So when I did my reply and I typed in approved, and this is one of the issues that you have to think about whenever you are using string comparisons, which is what we're doing. I said approved here in my email and in my timeline itself. On my results. Wait, that's the wrong timeline. Back to activity 1 here. On my results. Even though approved is not on this list, approve is. And the word approved contains the word approve in its full form. So by putting approve, that also gives me approved as well. And of course, I have my spellings and stuff like that. Okay, great. Well, this worked. That's cool, I guess. But what happens if if I deny the request, it'll be fine. I've got deny, nope, But I do have the signature comments required. So let's play a little game and see what we can do to mess this all up. So we'll go back and so my options are deny, no, nope, Those are the options I'm allowed. So we're going to run this again. Submit it. We're now in the context of a task. I'm going to delete my old messages before the new one comes in. There we go. Here's my new message. So let's try to break it. And it's easier to break it with denials. So line 1, I'm going to say deny. And I'm just going to send. And of course, obviously, it's got to send to me. I've got to manually import it into the emails folder. So there's my message. It says deny. And we'll call this 2. Then we'll come to create new document file. And there's my please complete this task via email too. And we'll upload it. And now my email message has been uploaded. Happy camper about that. Let's look at our active timelines. I now have 2 completed timelines. Failed. You did not complete the task via email. Please try again. Okay, I may have uncovered something wrong here. Oh, I'm looking at email import timeline. Active timelines. There we go. Active timelines. Let's look at it. What happened? Okay, activity 1, still active. I hit deny. What is the cause of my failure? Well, the cause of my failure was I didn't supply any comments, and therefore I cannot complete my task. So my task is still running, which means that for this email, which is a reply email, so I can't do that. I got to open up. Oh no, I don't remember which is which. I really did need to put a sequence number in on these emails to track it, didn't I? So let me reply to this email. And this time we'll put deny. But now I'll say on line 2, I don't want to. And we'll send that message. And we can close this. And let's delete these emails that are backing up in my system. And let's pop this back open. Deny, I don't want to. And we'll go to File, Save As, and we'll just call it Email 3, save, go back to our emails folder, and create new document file. We'll import, we'll find email 3. We'll upload it. There we go. It's uploaded. Let's take a look at our active timelines. We still have an active timeline. This is still showing up as active. Is this the right timeline or the wrong timeline? Or was that the wrong timeline? You know what? That may have been the wrong task completion email with the wrong TLID. So I think I'm going to have to delete everything. And we're going to go back to our timeline status, and we are going to restart this activity so that we have the appropriate TLID. So I've restarted the activity, which means I now have the email. So this should definitely be the right one. I'm going to reply. And in my reply, deny. I don't want to. Well, now send. And see, that's why the TLID is so important. And also why it's important when you're demoing this to try to be able to keep track of what emails are what. So now I can open up this email, deny, I don't want to, great. File, save as, and this will be email 4. We'll save it, and we can close all of these emails. Go back to the emails folder, document file, browse, email 4, upload. There we go. There's my upload for email 4. We'll go back here to our email completion timeline. There we go. Now I have no active timelines, which must mean that I have successfully done my job in making my timeline work the way I want it to give me approvals or denials via email. And as we saw, if I do a denial and I don't do the appropriate commenting or whatever on line 2, it simply will not accept what I've put in. So to go back and do a quick recap, on your form, have a signature comments control. On your process timeline, remember you've got the results where you have your optional strings for task completion. And on the advanced tab, you've got the allow task to be completed from email. You got to fill that out. On your email template, you've got to have the email task ID system variable. Has to be on every email so that the system knows what task it is that it's supposed to try to complete. You're going to need a separate timeline that calls the email action custom task to figure out what we're going to do with the email, what we're going to do with any attachments and whatnot. Then you're going to need an email folder, and that email folder is going to call the timeline that invokes that email action custom task automatically whenever a new email gets imported into the system. And with that, we now know how to build the automation for our system. Now, there's a couple of things that you're going to want to do, and you are going to want to test it. So you're going to want to do a rather more extensive thing than what I just did a few minutes ago, where I put in, what I expected to get. I put in a denial without the required signature comments, because if I put in a success or an approval without signature comments, who cares? I don't need signature comments for approvals, but I do need it for disapprovals. And as we saw when I put it in for denial and I didn't put comments in, it failed to complete and I got the failure message and had to go back and reply again to do it right. So you are going to want to have some sort of pilot set up, and you are going to want to test all of these different scenarios, because now we're not just depending on users to open up a form and click a button. That's kind of fail safe. Now we have to worry about, what are they going to reply? Are they going to say approve, deny? For example, one of the failure states, the way that I configured the one that I just built, is that there's no disapprove. So if somebody types in disapprove, what's going to happen? It's going to get approved, because approve is a success string, and disapprove contains the words approve. So you're going to have to work out little things like that in your testing. What happens if someone does say disapprove? Does that become a failure? What if you have approve in your success strings for approval, and you have disapprove in your disapproval strings or denial strings, okay, well, both answers say approve. One just has a couple of extra letters in front of approve, but they both say approve. This is why approve and disapprove is always a bad idea in Process Director when we're talking about results, because those are two strings that are too easy to mix up. So in your testing, it might be clear, and you need to be clear about whether you want to use approve and deny, or what is going to happen if somebody types in disapprove. Is that going to be a failure? Well, not if approve is in your success strings. So you got to think through these things. You got to test these things. Once you've got it tested out, then you can begin scaling it out to additional workflows. But that testing and doing email completion, there's a lot of tricky things that come up, because now we don't just have a result button that we click that has a set value. Now what we're trying to do is parse through text. And does this text mean A or does it mean B? And what if it means both, like approve and disapprove? Then what does my process do? It's probably going to fail, because it's probably actually going to go into an error state, because it basically doesn't know which of the approves that you want to apply. So that's going to be the type of thing that you need to work out. The instructions that you give to your users who are completing by email might need to say, you must reply with the word deny on the first line, or approve. So you must reply with the words either deny or approve on the first line, and then any comments you would like to add, hit enter, and then add any comments you would like to add on the second line. So you might have to give much more explicit instructions. And then, of course, people have to read those instructions. So essentially, completion by email, while it is cool and while it is very convenient, also imposes an additional training burden on you and testing burden on you to be sure that it works right whenever you get it out into a production environment. With that having been said, however, we're done for the day. As always, thank you for joining me. I will look forward to talking to you again next week, since there is no Feature Spotlight webinar next week. It's delayed because of Veterans Day. So have for those of you who take Monday off, have a great 4-day weekend. In fact, maybe I'll look into taking Monday off. In any event, I'll see you next Thursday. Have a great week. So long.